Have you ever noticed how peculiar it is that some of us simply do not enjoy having visitors? I've been pondering this curious phenomenon, this resistance many of us feel when someone announces they're dropping by. It's quite fascinating, really, because on the surface we're supposed to be social creatures, aren't we? And yet there's this tension, this subtle anxiety that rises up when the doorbell rings unexpectedly. Now, I want you to consider something rather interesting about this whole business of not wanting visitors. It isn't simply a quirk or a personality trait. No. It goes much deeper than that. It reveals something profound about the nature of your soul, about your relationship with existence itself. You see, when someone enters your home, what is really happening? They're entering your space, yes, but more significantly, they're entering an extension of yourself. Your home is not merely a structure of wood and stone and glass. It is a reflection of your inner landscape. The furniture you've chosen, the colors on your walls, the objects you've collected, these are all expressions of your consciousness externalized in physical form. And so when you feel that resistance to having someone enter, what you're really feeling is a resistance to having someone enter your consciousness. Quite literally, you're protecting the boundaries of yourself. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. What exactly are you protecting? What is this self that feels so vulnerable to the gaze of others? Most of us live with a rather persistent illusion that we are a fixed, solid entity. We believe we are a definite something moving through time and space, with clear boundaries and a consistent identity. But this is not at all the case. We are more like a process than a thing, more like a whirlpool in a stream than a rock sitting in it. And visitors have this uncanny ability to disrupt the illusion. They come in, and suddenly we feel exposed. We worry they'll see through our carefully constructed persona. We fear they'll notice the dust in the corners or the unwashed dishes. But what we're really afraid of is that they'll notice the inconsistencies in our self-image, the cracks in our ego structure. Because to maintain the illusion of being a solid, fixed self requires tremendous energy. It's exhausting work, really. We're constantly editing, filtering, presenting, hiding all. To maintain this fiction of who we think we are or who we think we should be. And when visitors arrive, this work becomes even more demanding. We have to perform our identity not just for ourselves, but for them as well. No wonder it's exhausting. No wonder we sometimes want to hang a permanent "Do Not Disturb" sign on our front door. But let's go deeper still. This resistance to visitors often reveals a fascinating paradox at the heart of human existence. We desperately want connection to be seen, known, understood, and simultaneously we fear it terribly. We want to be recognized, but we're afraid of being truly seen. Because to be truly seen would mean someone might glimpse beyond the performance, beyond the mask, to that mysterious core that even we ourselves don't fully understand. And that feels dangerous, doesn't it? It feels like standing naked on a cliff edge during a thunderstorm. There's something else happening too, when we resist visitors. Time takes on a peculiar quality. Have you noticed this? When we're alone, time becomes elastic, subjective. It flows according to our internal rhythms. We can spend hours lost in a book or staring out the window or pursuing some hobby, and it feels like no time at all has passed. Or we can sit for 5 minutes with our own thoughts, and it feels like an eternity. But when visitors arrive, suddenly time becomes regimented, structured, social. We become acutely aware of how long they've been there, whether they're staying too long, whether we're being good hosts. Time is no longer our own. It's shared. And that, too, can feel like a kind of invasion. What's really happening here is a collision between different modes of being. When we're alone, we can slip into what we might call soul time, that expansive, boundaryless experience where past, present, and future blur together. But social interactions pull us into clock time, linear, measured, constrained. And here's a curious thing. Many who resist visitors are actually people who live more naturally in soul time. They're the dreamers, the contemplatives, the ones who lose themselves in creative pursuits or philosophical musings. They're not being antisocial so much as they're protecting a different relationship with existence itself. Now, I'm not suggesting that all resistance to visitors is profound or spiritual. Sometimes it's simply that we don't want to clean up our living room, or we're tired, or the particular visitor is someone who drains rather than energizes us. These practical concerns are real too, but even these surface-level resistances can be doorways into deeper understanding if we're willing to examine them. Why do we feel we need to clean up before someone visits? What would happen if we allowed someone to see our space exactly as it is when we're alone? What are we hiding, and why? Let's consider another dimension of this resistance to visitors. When we're alone, we can forget ourselves, and I mean that quite literally. We can forget the self that we present to the world. We can drop the performance, shed the social skin, and simply be. This forgetting of the self is enormously refreshing. It's like taking off tight shoes after a long day. The relief is palpable. And in that spaciousness of forgetting the performing self, something else can emerge, a more authentic experiencing of reality, unfiltered by the needs of the ego. Visitors, by their very presence, make this forgetting impossible. They snap us back into our social identity. And again, this isn't necessarily bad. Social connections are vital to human flourishing, but it does require energy, attention, focus. It requires wearing those tight shoes again. There's something else here too, something about control. When we're alone, we control our environment. We decide what to do and when to do it. We can follow our whims, our rhythms. There's tremendous freedom in this autonomy. Visitors introduce an element of unpredictability. They have their own needs, their own rhythms, their own expectations. And suddenly we have to negotiate, compromise, adapt. Again, this isn't inherently negative. It can lead to wonderful exchanges, surprises, growth. But it does mean surrendering some control. And that can feel threatening to the part of us that craves stability and predictability. But here's the beautiful irony in all of this. The self that we're so carefully protecting, the boundaries we're so diligently maintaining, they're not even real in the way we think they are. They're more like a dream we're having, a story we're telling ourselves. And the visitors we sometimes resist, they're having the same dream, telling themselves the same kind of story. We're all walking around in these bubbles of self-narrative, occasionally bumping into each other, sometimes merging for a while, sometimes recoiling. What would happen if we recognized this? If we saw that the boundaries we're defending are illusory? If we understood that the self we're protecting is more like a cloud than a fortress, constantly changing, with no fixed edges, no permanent substance? Perhaps we'd hold our resistance more lightly. Perhaps we'd see that the anxiety about visitors is based on a misunderstanding about what we are. Perhaps we'd discover that what feels like an invasion can also be an opportunity, a chance to let go of the exhausting work of maintaining a fixed identity and instead dance in the space of genuine encounter. Because here's a secret. Those moments when we feel most alive, most present, most real, they often happen precisely when we forget to maintain our boundaries, when we're so engaged with another person or with an activity that we momentarily drop the self-consciousness, the performance, the protection. Now, I'm not suggesting we should fling our doors open to anyone and everyone at all times. Boundaries have their purpose. Privacy has its value. And some visitors truly are depleting rather than enriching. Discernment remains essential. But I am suggesting that our resistance to visitors can be a fascinating portal into self-understanding if we're willing to explore it. It can reveal our attachments, our fears, our misconceptions about what we are and what others are. And perhaps most valuably, it can point us toward a more fluid, more playful relationship with existence. One where we recognize that the self we're so concerned about protecting is actually not a fixed thing at all, but a dynamic process, constantly in relationship, constantly changing. I've found in my own experience that when I hold my resistance more lightly, when I see it as interesting information rather than an imperative, something shifts. The anxiety lessens, the sense of invasion diminishes, and sometimes, quite unexpectedly, the visitor I was dreading becomes the source of exactly the connection, the insight, the experience I didn't even know I needed. There's a wonderful freedom in this recognition. Because if the self isn't a fixed entity that must be defended at all costs, but rather a flowing, changing process in constant relationship with everything around it, then visitors aren't invaders. They're simply new currents in the stream, new patterns in the dance. This doesn't mean the resistance disappears entirely. I still sometimes feel that flutter of anxiety when the doorbell rings unexpectedly. I still sometimes crave solitude with an intensity that surprises me. But now, I'm curious about these feelings rather than identified with them. I can watch them arise, notice what they're telling me, and make choices from a place of greater awareness. And perhaps this is the greatest gift that our resistance to visitors can offer us, this invitation to look more closely at who and what we think we are, to question our assumptions about the boundaries between self and other, to explore the mysterious territory where separation meets connection. Because in the end, the home we're protecting isn't just a physical space, and the self we're defending isn't just a psychological construct. They're portals to something far more vast and mysterious. This extraordinary experience of being alive, of being conscious, of being both utterly unique and completely interconnected with everything that exists. So the next time you feel that resistance to a visitor, that desire to hide away and protect your space, see if you can get curious about it. What is it telling you? What are you really protecting? What would happen if you loosened your grip just a little? The answers might surprise you. They might even liberate you. Because what your soul is really seeking isn't perfect protection, it's authentic expression. And sometimes, paradoxically, it's precisely in the encounters we resist that we find the most profound opportunities for that expression to unfold. If you've resonated with these reflections today, I invite you to subscribe to this channel for more explorations of the mysteries of consciousness and existence. Perhaps leave a like if you found something valuable here, and share in the comments below. What does your resistance or openness to visitors reveal about your own relationship with the boundaries of self? Your insights might illuminate the path for others walking a similar journey,